Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls video with me, Sherman. Today we're going to be taking a look at patch 3.1.0. This is the patch for the Horns of the Reach DLC pack. This is on PTS, so this is... A lot of people say that, don't worry, there will be adjustments and stuff, but here's the thing. The last time I read the patch notes, somebody said that there would be a lot of adjustments. There wasn't. And I'm going to say it again. I highly doubt a lot of these are going to change. So let's go ahead and just skip over all this stuff because it's just base change stuff. They're going to go down here to this list and look at what they say there is. So there's new DLC pack stuff. Cool. Morrowind chapter stuff. There's base game changes. There's a thing here that says known issues, but I didn't see a whole lot of stuff on it. There is some stuff in here on known issues. Fixes, improvements, Morrowind, Dark Brotherhood, blah, 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 blah. Combat and balance, combat fixes improvements, itemization balance, itemization fixes improvements. This is the main area we're going to focus on right here. I would look at the rest of this, but honestly, I don't want to spoil a whole lot. So let's go ahead, excuse me. And so here's the stuff for the new dungeons that is coming out. I'm going to be doing some videos if I can on the dungeons if I have a chance and get in to do them on the PTS. So I will get to those. Here's the new item sets that are coming with the new DLC. Here's the ones from Falkreath Hold. There is the Druger's Rest. This one actually does sound good, by the way. Max Magicka, Magica Recovery, and Healing Done. When you deal damage with a fully charged heavy attack, you create a circle of concentrated ground that heals you and your allies within 5 meters for 11,000 health over 10 seconds. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. The reason I like this set is because it does something that we don't see a lot of 5-piece sets do, and that's add a bonus effect to healing to this degree. Most of it's like, oh, we're going to increase your healing effectiveness, we're going to increase this. Please excuse the laughing in the background, my kids are watching The Mask. So, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming with that, you know, for this gear set. It's going to make a lot of things different for a lot of healers. In fact, I will say that this might even become a new set for healers who are running 2 5-piece sets, because this is a really beneficial thing for them to run 2 5-piece sets with a staff. Now they can do it, and they don't need a monster set to give them some extra bonuses. I also want to talk about monster sets when we get to it. Going on down, so we have Pillars of Nirn. This is the second set. This is the medium set. It does max stam, weapon critical weapon damage. When you deal damage, you have a 10% chance to create a fissure underneath the enemies after 1 second, dealing 2,000 physical damage to all enemies within 2.5 meters, and causing them to bleed for an additional 8,000 physical damage over 10 seconds. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. Now, this set I could see possibly getting an adjustment for the 8,000 damage, possibly, but I highly doubt it. And I think that it's going to be another really good set for a lot of stam DPS to go for. Especially if you're running something like Cilatrix or Tremor Scale, this would be a good set to combo with that, I think. So, next up, Iron Blood. This is the new heavy set from Falkreath Reach, or Falkreath Hold. Max health, physical resistance, spell resistance. Now, both of these, if you guys don't know, do 2,500 and something extra resistances. And then the 5th piece is when you take damage, you have an 8% chance to turn your blood into pure iron and gain major protection for 10 seconds, reducing the damage taken by 30%. But your movement speed is reduced by 75%, and this effect can occur once every 10 seconds. That is a game changer right there. For anyone who plays a tank, that right there, sorry to say it, but it is a game changer. It's a really good set, I think. And I think that it could possibly become a new tank set, a highly used tank set. And the reason I say that is because if you look at something that I'll talk about later on, you'll see why I say that. It could be something very good for that. So, Dahamas, the new monster set, it has max stamina and max magicka. This is the first time we've ever seen a monster set give both max stam and max magicka. This is really cool too, because of the way the set works. When you deal damage, you have a 15% chance to create either a ring of fire or a ring of molten earth around you for 10 seconds, which deals 1,000 flame damage or 1,000 physical damage every 1 second. Standing within the ring grants 200 spell damage or 200 weapon damage. This effect can occur once every 15 seconds. This is like, literally, like a Hybrid's dream set. Because it goes either way. It does either spell or weapon damage, and it does either flame damage, which is magic, a type of magic damage, or physical damage. So that's really cool. I like that set. Next up is the Bloodroot Forge sets, and we have Flame Blossom. This sounds like a really cool set too. 2 pieces Max Magicka, 3 pieces spell damage, 4 pieces spell penetration. Now we don't see a lot of sets with spell pen, so this is why this set might stand out for a lot of like Magicka DPS players. But when you deal damage, you have a 10% chance to summon a line of flame that moves forward, dealing 8,000 flame damage to any enemy in its path. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. That's pretty powerful. So you might see an increase in proc sets being used too with this update, and we'll get to that in a second as well. Blood Drinker, this is going to actually be a set I'm going to go after because it does weapon critical, weapon damage, weapon critical, and then it's 5 pieces. Increase the damage you deal with bleed damage over time, effects by 20%. This is something I've actually been thinking about doing, is creating a bleed build. And this would really work with that, because if you're using twin slashes or using dual axes, this is going to be a really good one for that. Next up, the heavy set. This one, now, usually I would say, you know, a lot of heavy sets aren't very tank friendly. This one is another one that's kind of tank friendly. The 2 pieces max health, the 3 pieces health recovery, the 4 pieces healing received or healing taken. It's going to be 4%, we know that. When you take damage, though, this is the 5-piece part. So when you take damage under 50% of health, you summon a preservation of nature around you for 5 seconds. Any damage you take from enemies outside of the preservation is reduced by 50%. So when it goes off, you'll see the circle go down. You move outside of it, any damage you take is reduced by 50%. And the first time an enemy tries to enter the preservation, they are knocked back 5 meters. This effect can occur once every 45 seconds. Now, this is the only part that really is not going to make this set something like huge, but it is still viable, and that's at once every 45 seconds. That's like almost once every minute. So it's not really that good, but I like the bonus of that 50% damage reduction when you're outside of the circle, and I think that's really cool. Next up is a new healer set, which I think is phenomenal, the Earth Gore. So it does healing done, and then when you heal a friendly target that is under 50% health, you conjure a pool of quenching blood underneath him, which soaks up enemy placed effects instantly and heals all friendly targets in the area for 30,000 health over 3 seconds. Now again, this is the bad part about the set. This effect can occur once every 35 seconds. It's still a really good set, but it's just that 35 seconds really kind of puts it off. We are getting a new die. The Bloodroot Wine die is unlocked by completing the Horns of the Reach Delver achievement. So you have to complete that achievement to get it, but it is probably going to be a pretty cool one. They go into talking about the new game modes, the Chaos Ball, the Arcane University Battleground, and then miscellaneous Battleground updates. You earn a medal each time for each tick of scoring while holding the Chaos Ball, and can earn additional medals for holding the ball for at least 30, 60, or 90 seconds. Healing medals have been adjusted to trigger off lower values across all game modes. This should result in more medals being earned for support play, so that's kind of cool. 3 new motives are being added to the game: the Halua, the Redoran, and the Telvanni. I can't wait for Telvanni, honestly. That's going to be the one I'm going to be farming for. But are available in Vardenfell. These 3 styles and their associated style items can be found from stealing from citizens, picking their pockets, stealing from their safe boxes, and looting thieves' tropes. So that's how you're going to be able to get those 3 new motives. And this is coming with the Horns of the Reach update. So this isn't out yet. This is coming with Horns of the Reach. Base game changes or patch and stuff. They talk about miscellaneous quality of life stuff. They talk about guild things, but they're not really nothing. The enchanting stuff is pretty cool. Items can now be locked or unlocked for the improvement from the improvement screen Locked items can now be improved, but only if you have the chance is 100%. Equipped items can now be improved. So that's kind of cool. But this is the one that a lot of people are more excited about, and that's they're adding a new setting called Combat Queue. And in the gameplay menu, that will allow you to control the color and brightness of friendly and hostile queues. That means the ground effects, all that kind of stuff. That's really cool. I'm glad that they're doing this. This is going to be something that's going to be good for everyone. They're also going to put in damage over time abilities will now display numbers of hits you receive from the ability when in the death cap death cap UI. So that's kind of cool. But we don't want to talk about a lot of this other stuff. We want to scroll way down past a lot of this stuff. A lot of this stuff is cool, but it's nothing as important as the changes that come way down here. By the way, there was some dungeon fixes to Cradle of Shadows and Ruins of Moses Tomb, just letting you guys know. So we'll just start here with the combat changes. So they're doing some new balance adjustments to things like that. Burning now lasts 4 seconds and ticks every 2 seconds, previously lasting 3 seconds. And ticking every 1.5 seconds. Total damage ticks remain unchanged. Poisoned now deals its total damage over 6 seconds, down from 12 seconds. Concussion and chilled secondary effects, minor vulnerability and minor maim now last 4 seconds, down from 6 seconds and 5 seconds respectively. Summon pets from abilities and item sets now move 10% faster. Dodge rolling now grants immunity to immobilizations when it is used while you are silenced. So, and then there's some other things down here. So, Ardent Flame Combustion. This ability's passive now increases the damage of burning and poison by 25 and 50%, down from 33 and 66%. That's a nice change. I will admit it. It does help, but they still do a lot of damage. With this change, they're still going to do a lot of damage. Dark Talons, this ability and the Choking Talons morph now deal magic damage instead of physical damage. Earth and Heart, Obsidian Shard, Stone Fist morph, increase the radius of the heal from this morph to 28 meters from 10 meters. That's an amazing thing, because this just made that heal look really good now for the DK, and I'm glad that they made that adjustment, because it didn't really reach that far. Now that it has that 28 meter range, it might be something you might see a lot more DK healers coming out, using that and stuff. That'll be kind of cool. Storm Calling Surge. This ability and its morphs now use your highest critical strike rating to determine their critical strike chance. It no longer it does do magic and physical, both increases both, but it only increases the one for the highest value. So if your magic critical is higher, you're going to get magic critical. If your physical critical is higher, you're only going to get physical. So you're not going to get both. You're only going to get one or the other. So just letting you know. Werewolf updated several animations used in certain werewolf abilities to improve their response time when weaving them with other abilities. That's kind of cool. Major and Minor Defile. The debuff now decreases the enemy's health recovery in addition to decreasing their healing received. So that's kind of a good thing too. So just saying. Moving on down here. Mundus Stone changes. This is the one where I'm kind of like, what? Why would you make these changes? So let's go ahead and take a look at them. So the values and bonuses of most Mundus Stones have been adjusted in the following ways, with the listed values being for CP 160 plus characters. I want to show you guys what the developer notes say though. Mundus Stone values have bonuses that have been retuned with the focus on improving overall diversity. Almost all Mundus Stones were buffed, with the exception of Thief, which was slightly nerfed due to its overshadowing all other choices. The Lady was upgraded to grant both spell and physical resistance. The Lever was completely redesigned to grant spell and physical penetration to counteract the Lady and provide greater flexibility in stat choices. We've also standardized Mundus Stone values against other systems that grant similar bonuses, such as enchantments and item sets, so that so you can customize the stats you care about in each system without needing to worry about weighing the extra or the exact values against each other. Mundus Stones are now equivalent to 1.85 times of an item set bonus. So they're just as going to be just as powerful, if not more powerful, than item set bonuses. So let's start with this. The Apprentice. Increased spell damage from the Apprentice from 167 to 238. That is a big jump. I'm sorry, that right there is a large jump, and it's going to make these a lot better too. Especially if you're wearing all divines, you're going to easily push 400 or 500 extra weapon damage out of these things. So it's really kind of a that thing. And that the Anorak one, they increased magic recovery to 238 from 167. Like they said, the lady now grants spell and physical resistance. Value is increased to 2752 from 1980. That's almost half the value. That's the equivalent. That's more than what you get for a defending weapon. And I think that's kind of what they're trying to do. They're trying to say, look, we want you guys to use this instead of defending weapons for your tanks. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, that's stupid, but, you know. But it is. I mean, think about using decisive weapons now. Now you can use decisive weapons and get extra ultimate if you need it. Or you can use infused weapons. You can use, sharpened weapons if you wanted to. You can also use, defending weapons. But this is another option there to give you that extra thing. The next one, though, is the one that really kind of got me, was now grants 2,752 physical and spell penetration instead of granting spell resistance. And that's the Lover. That's because they took the lady and put spell resistance and physical resistance together. So the Lover now does penetration of both. And that's really cool because think about this. You can use a defending weapon now, if you wanted to, as a DPS, and a sharpened weapon, or a precise weapon and a sharpened weapon. And you can use this instead to get that extra penetration in there instead of using the Thief Stone. I know the Thief Stone is highly used, but this is another way to kind of offset that and say, hey, you know what, I can go with this instead. Moving on, increased max health of the Lord to 2231 from 1452. That's a giant increase. The Mage increased max magicka to 2028 from 1320. The Serpent increased stamina recovery. Steed increased health recovery. The Thief reduced critical strike chance to 9% from 11%. This is where, like like they said, it's highly used. This really does. I mean, 9% doesn't seem like a lot, but then you do the multiplication of all the Mundstone stuff, and you're still looking at about, maybe 20% total, if that, when it's all buffed up. And it's like, okay, well, I can get 20% bonus, or I can get this. It's like, So, but it's still kind of good, or it's still good. The Tower, they adjust the max stamina, and then the Warrior increased weapon damage to this much. Now, the Shadow and the Ritual are unchanged, which is good because they really didn't need it. The Ritual, if you guys don't know, is the one that increases your healing effectiveness, and the Shadow is the one that increases your critical damage. So, now they did some combat fixes to things, and in fact to the visual effects of noise and stuff, and synergy healing, all that kind of stuff. Like all these things going off on the screen will also be visible. Player affected abilities include the following: Ash Cloud and its morphs, Path of Darkness and Twisting Path morph, Volatile Familiar and special ability, Hurricane, Ruined Focus and its morphs, Impaling Shard and its morphs, Volley and its morphs, Wall of Elements and its morphs, Elemental Storm and its morphs, and Caltrops and its morphs. Basically saying they're going to add a ground target effect, so you can see it and know where it's at that way, instead of just trying to guess. Affected item sets abilities included the following. So all these ones that have ground effects, you're actually going to see those now, so that's kind of cool. Moving on, Dragon Knight, they talk about some fixes here and there and stuff like that, but let's go ahead and get down here to the itemization changes. Now this is the really, really weird one. They adjusted the values of bonuses of most weapon traits in the following ways, listed in the two-handed quality values being for two-handed. This is only for two-handed weapons. So, and if you read their notes, it says similar to Mundstone's, almost all weapon traits were buffed, with this exception of Sharpen and Defending, which were nerfed due to them overperforming. This should still remain one of the strongest options for increasing your damage or survivability, but now the power difference between them and other traits is no longer so massive. Prosperous was completely redesigned to grant a new combat function and will be increasing the choice for builds, seeking to maximize resource recovery gains. Pairing with Divine's trait with a recovery Mundstone will grant more recovery for a particular stat. But Prosperous will grant more recovery overall. So they've made an adjustment to Prosperous. So that's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and read through these. Decisive, increase the chance to generate one additional ultimate to 40% from 34%. Now this is, like I said, this is on two-handed items, not one-handed, two-handed. So defending, they reduce the spell and physical resistance to 2752 from 5160. So this is where that Mundus Stone, that they talked about, that does the extra resistances, and that gear set I was talking about that gives you the extra resistances, the tanky set. This is where that is going to play, is you're going to want to wear sets like that if you're two-handed tanking now. So like Meridia's Blessing, what's that new set? The Warrior Poet set. Anything that gives you an increase to physical and spell resistance, you're going to want that also when using and defending two-handed. And that's because it's offset now. So it's kind of like I've got to look at my characters now because my tank is really being affected by this. And I can't make the adjustments without either totally removing my two-handed weapons or going with Meridia's Blessing or one of those other sets to give me that big boost. So I've got to really look at this and soon. Nirnhone, increase the bonus to the weapon damage to 15% from 11%. That's a decent 4% is a decent increase. So this might actually make Nirnhone a more popular choice too. Powered, increase the healing done to 9% from 7%. This was needed, much needed, and I'm glad that they're making that change. Precise, they increase the critical strike chance to 9% from 7%. That's another one that's going to make it, it's going to make this a more viable option for people that dual wield now. Sharpen, reduce the spell and physical penetration granted to 2752 from 5160. So Sharpen did get nerfed as well on two-handed. And this is where two-handed is really going to suffer now versus one-handed. Or dual wield, his dual wield will still have the 5,160 penetration, where two-handed doesn't. So it's like, well, you're taking that big chunk away from us and giving it only to dual wield and making dual wield a much more viable option than two-handed, unless we go with this Mundus Stone or we go with this gear set or we go with this and this, and we can't go with these other gear sets now. Now we have to do this, and it really does hurt. The thing. But the thing is that two-handed does get greater weapon damage as well. So this is kind of an offset for that. We might not get as much penetration as we did before, but we do get more weapon damage still. So it's kind of that nice thing. And natural weapon damage. Now I'm not talking like a passive increase to weapon damage like dual wield gives you the 12%. They actually just have more weapon damage, period. Prosperous armor trait has been redesigned. It now gives a combat function. It now grants 11 health, magic, and stamina recovery as a gold quality item instead of gold gain. So that's kind of a nice change. I have to admit this is kind of a nice change for those people who want like recovery builds. Now you can go with Prosperous instead and just run full Prosperous or like 4 pieces of Prosperous, which would give you excuse me, 44% in or 44 an increase of 44 health, magic, and stamina. And if you went for the whole thing, I'm guessing around like close to 70, 80 more. And if you're wearing like a Mundus Stone to give you more recovery and all this other stuff, there's a lot of options there, and I think that's a really good change. So reduce the damage on damage health from Oblivion weapon enchantments by approximately 6%. That's going to be good for the PvP scene. Weapon enchantments no longer proc if the initial attack is dodged. So that's kind of cool. It kind of sucks in my opinion, but it's cool. Moving on, developer things on proc set changes and monster set balances. Item sets have received 2 rebalancing effects. This update with the focus on introducing more counterplay to certain item set procs and improving diversity in monster mask choices. To introduce more counterplay to certain item set procs, we've changed the method in which they deal damage. While we are happy with the current damage values of these sets, having them deliver the damage is in unavoidable bursts has led to an unsatisfying PvP experience. The procs on these item sets now have unique mechanics to delay their damage, along with accompanying visual effects to allow more time to react to them. To go hand in hand with the release of 2 new Monster Mask item sets, we've rebalanced most of the older Monster Masks to ensure that every Monster Mask conforms to similar damage, healing, and survivability standards. Most Monster Masks were brought up in power, though. A few were adjusted slightly downwards, so that's kind of cool. So we'll get into that here in a second. So they universally adjusted the values of some 1, 2, 3, and 4 piece stats for all item sets. So max health, magic, and stamina have been increased by 13.3%. So anything that gives you max health, max magicka, max stamina has been adjusted to give you 13.3%. Now this is also based on gold value or across the board, but at gold value you're going to get more out of it than you will when it's less. So we're looking at probably 1,000 on stamina and magicka, up from the 800 and something, and then over 1,000 health on others. So that'll be kind of nice. Weapon critical and spell critical adjustments have been increased by 55%. That means they've almost been doubled. So that means that anything that gives you 600 and something will now give you 800 and something. So you're looking at each crit thing basically doubling. So that's huge. That's a huge thing. Physical and spell resistance has been adjusted by 11.8 or 13.8%. That's a significant increase. Again, across the board, you're going to see a greater physical and spell resistance on your characters now. And then penetration as well has been adjusted. Anything with spell or physical penetration has been decreased by 22%. So anyone running Spriggans or Spinners, those have been adjusted by 22%, or will be when this launches in August, I think it is. So any monster summoned by an item set proc now inherits any bonuses you have. The most notable bonuses are damage done and healing done from passive abilities, major, minor buffs, or the champion system. So any of those things are going to affect any of the creatures that you summon to do damage for you from proc sets. That's kind of a cool thing. So Bloodspawn, decrease the amount of ultimate generated by this set to 14 from 15. Like, that's really an adjustment. That's not even changing it, really. I mean, come on. Death's Wind, this item set now grants crowd control immunity to the enemy after knocking them back. Growthar, decreased the damage of this item set by approximately 10%. Illumbras, decreased the damage of this item set by approximately 10%. And that just really set those two off, didn't it? Lord Warden, increased the radius of this item's set proc to 8 meters from 5 meters. That's a huge bonus to Lord Warden. That actually makes it stand out more and makes it just as viable as running, or even better almost, than running Bloodspawn, except for Bloodspawn does give you the ultimate gen. But still pretty good. Niraneth, or Niraneth, yeah. Increase the damage of this item set's proc by 20%. Holy cow, that's going to make that set something I'm going to want to use now. Night Flame increased the proc chance of this item set to 5% from 3%, and changed the one-piece bonus to max magicka instead of max health. I gotta make an adjustment to my character. Thanks a lot. But yeah, no, that's really cool. I'm glad they made that change, especially at 3 to 5%. It doesn't go off too often as it is, but now with that 5%, it should go off more often, and it does have a great heal. So that's a really good change. Poisonous Servant. They increase the proc chance of this item set to 50% from 25%, but decrease the damage to 3,400 poison damage from 6,800 poison damage. So that's kind of a nice change. The proc set was adjusted in damage value, but it was also adjusted in its percentage chance to fire off. Selene, this item set's proc now displays a hostile telegraph to enemy players, indicating its area of effect. That's kind of cool. Celatrex increased the damage of this item set's proc by 30%, decrease the time it takes for the proc to erupt to 1.5 seconds from 2 seconds, increase the cooldown of the item set's proc to 5.5 seconds from 5 seconds. So this had some minor adjustments, but enough to make it really viable now. Shadowrend changed this item set's proc to occur when you take damage instead of when you deal damage, Yeah, see, this is what really got me about Shadowrun. Shadowrun to me was always one that I felt was more of a tank set, because it was whenever you dealt lighter damage with a lighter heavy attack, you had this chance of proccing this thing. The monster summoned by this set proc now deals magic damage instead of physical damage. It's great for a magic tank, is my opinion. Increases the duration of the minor main debuff applied by this item set to 10 seconds from 5 seconds. That is cool. Shadow of the Red Mountain. This is one that I think needed a change, but I think that the change is kind of... So the item set now spawns a volcano that erupts 1 second after 1 second and launches a projectile at the closest enemy instead of instantly dealing unavoidable damage. It shouldn't have been unavoidable damage. It should have been damage that could be avoided with a dodge or a block or some, reduce the damage by blocking. It shouldn't have been unavoidable. Shield Breaker, this item set's proc now only occurs once for each cast of a lightning or restoration staff heavy attack. So it won't go off each tick of the chain, because these are channeled attack, lightning and restoration staff. So they will only go off once instead of every time it ticks. So that's kind of good. Slime Claw changed the one-piece bonus to double one-piece... What? Changed the one-piece to a double one-piece bonus of both weapon and spell critical strike chances instead of health recovery. Slime Claw just kind of came out of the woodwork there with that change. It was nice with the health bonus, but with this new weapon and spell critical chance increase, that means it's only not only going to be 600 and something spell crit, it's going to be like 800 and something, and then you're going to have that with that 8% guaranteed minor berserk all the time. So that's going to be a really good one for DPS, I think. I honestly, personally think it's a really good one for DPS. Especially people who are going for bursty DPS and stuff, that's going to be a really good one for that. Now, if people going for damage over time, I don't know if it's going to be something I would go for. I'd probably still go with the proc set. Spawn of Mephalia, increase the damage of this item set's proc by 5% and change the one-piece bonus to a max stamina instead of max health. Now that one I'm not too happy with because my DK does use this, so that means I'm going to have to put some health on my character somewhere, which is fine, but that change just, wow. Stormfist increased the shock damage of this item set by approximately 10%. The physical damage portion remains unchanged. So they're adjusting the 2,000 something shock damage does by another 10%. Holy moly. That's insane. That's cool though. I'm glad. Swarm Mother decreased the cooldown of this item's proc to 1 second down from 2. That is cool. If you guys don't know what Swarm Mother is, it's basically one that shoots out webs and grabs enemies and pulls them to you if they're at ranged or at I think if they're over 3 meters, and you can be 3 meters from somebody and still hit them with a two-handed or an attack, and you can pull them to you. So now you have, and this will go off every 1 second instead of every 2 seconds. So that means you can just block and just be like Spider-Man, just pulling enemies to you. It'd be pretty cool. Veladreth. This item set now, proc now occurs after a 1 second delay and displays a warning visual on the set wearer when the proc occurs. So Veladreth's proc set now goes off after 1 second. This could be a bad thing. Just saying. A lot of people are running Veladreths right now, and this could be a bad change because now it's going to be after 1 second. So there's time for people to move out of the way, and there's also time for you to make a mistake and actually be offset a little bit, and the enemy just to move just enough to where they're not going to get hit by that thing because of that 1 second delay. So that can be a good thing and a bad thing, just saying. Viper Sting, this item sets proc now deals its damage over 4 seconds instead of dealing it instantly. That's kind of a good one. I like that. That's like 6,000 something damage over 4 seconds, so that's kind of a nice change. Widowmaker, this item sets proc now drops a spore on the ground in front of you that explodes after 1 second instead of instantly dealing unavoidable damage. So another good change. Itemization fixes improvements. Now they did do some adjustments to fix some sets and things like that, and these are them. Fixed a rare issue. Some item sets could critically strike, so that was good. I'm glad that they're making that change. Armor of Truth. This item set's proc will now function correctly when the set when you send an enemy off balance. So you'll get that extra weapon damage for 10 seconds. So that's a kind of a nice one. Galeron's Revenge fixed an issue where this item set was displaying the wrong name of Death Recap. Okay, Light Speaker fixed an issue. Oh, this is a good one. Anyone who doesn't know, this is a great set. If you want to run a good set with, run this and Mara, Eyes of Mara together. This is like the ultimate, to me, it's a really great healer set. This one, Light Speaker increases the spell damage of your Restoration Staff damage, like abilities, but it also now increases the damage it does from light and heavy attacks. So that's really cool. Because it does add, and if you're running this with Eyes of Mara, all your Restoration Staff abilities are reduced by 12%. So if you're running mostly Resto Staff abilities, a couple class heal abilities and stuff like that, you're going to save on that. But you're also going to get that extra spell crit, you're going to get that lot of extra spell damage. I think it's 450. So it's a really good one for a healer, that combo, just saying. Ravager updated this item set's tooltip to indicate its proc cooldown. Okay, we're going to go ahead and skip over all this. And then it goes into all the fixes and stuff and animation and everything. But I do want to kind of go back up here and talk a little bit about some of these itemization changes. And not only that, but also the changes to the Mundus Stones. Because this is really game-changing. For a lot of reasons. I know a lot of people are still going to stick with the Thief Stone mainly for the extra crit and stuff, but it's still not going to be as effective as going with crit pieces, like crit sets. In fact, it would almost be better if you wanted to be, like, say, a DK and get the most out of it as you could out of a set. Run Vipers, like a 5-piece Vipers, run Spawn of Mephilia together, along with a, Hunting's Rage or something, and you'd have, like, you wouldn't even need Thief Medicine. You'd have all this crit from the two sets. You'd get some extra stamina and stuff. You'd get a lot of weapon damage and everything, and then all you'd have to do is put stamina on your gear, and you'd be pretty much set. I mean, Mephilia gives you stamina, and it gives you the extra poison damage. The Vipers gives you poison damage. This gives you the, all this stuff. And then you could go with any of these other Mundus Stones. I mean, you could run dual daggers with that build. So you could do rapid strikes or, the Steel Tornado and stuff. And then you could actually take the lever, which grants the spell and physical penetration. You could run one sharpened dagger and one precise dagger and still get that offset of all that stuff and all that extra weapon damage and all that other stuff. I mean, you're getting so much more out of your character with this new update. And I like a lot of these changes. I think this is something that needed to happen to make the game, to make our characters feel like our characters actually are gaining something from using a lot of the things like Mundus Stones and a lot of different gear sets and everything. Because even the changes to the gear sets, to these down here, where they make the itemization, item trait changes, like Prosperous Armor trait has been redesigned. This is a really good change, and then reducing the damage from Oblivion damage, but all these up here really kind of go, wow, this is cool. And then item set changes, where they did all these things where the max health, the weapon critical, spell critical, physical and spell resistance, the physical and spell penetration, all that stuff getting adjusted along with the Mundus Stones, and then along with all this here, you're seeing a big change coming to the game, and I think it's a good change. I honestly say, we'll say that it's a good change in my opinion. I won't say that it's a great change, but it's a good change that the game needs. So I'm not happy with this, honestly. The defending weapons and the sharpened weapon here, I'm not happy with that change. That's the out of all of them, those are the two that are affecting me the most, and that's because most of my characters either use a two-handed weapon, or they use, like my main tank, she uses a two-handed sword and bow. If I'm not running two-handed sword and bow, I'm running a sword and shield with a two-handed. And so now I'm kind of like, wow, I'm really kind of just put off by this. I don't even want to play that character, or think about playing that character because of this change, because now I got to come up with a way to get this extra defense on my character. And now that I know what I need to do, I'm actually going to go work on it today. I'm going to go readjust my character so that I run I don't know what gear yet, but I think I'm going to go with the Warrior Poet on my tank, because it does give me 10% extra max health. So I'm going to be dumping my plague doctors, which is fine. I can live without my plague doctors, but I don't know how bad this might adjust my health values. If it adjusts it too much, I might have to go with more health traits and stuff. I might actually, this might totally nerf my character. I don't know. I'm gonna have to see what it's like on tests. So, but that's it for this video, guys. I know there's a lot of changes that people are going to be unhappy with. A lot of changes a lot of people will be happy with. I am mostly happy for most of the changes, but like I said, the defending and the sharpen thing for two-handed really just puts me off from even thinking about wanting to use those anymore. Because it does. That's a big hit on that type of playstyle. It's almost like I have to go get Spriggans now, along with, or spinners now, like a 5-piece spinner's jewelry with like the two pieces set extra, and then run the 5-piece sets that I'm running with those characters, just so I can get that extra penetration there, which is really kind of horrible. So, but I'll take a look on test. I will be getting on test tonight and doing a couple recordings, taking a look at some of the changes to different gear sets, like I said, different things like that, and seeing how affected things are. So. And then I'll have that out tomorrow. I know I was supposed to bring a build video out today, but I kind of was waiting. I wanted to see what this was all about, and yeah. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, for this video. So if you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button. It'd be greatly appreciated. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can hit that subscribe button. I try to post videos on a weekly basis. Right now I'm trying to get in a schedule and everything, and work out a schedule to when I can release my when I want to release my videos. Kind of right now, though, just whenever I get them done. So that's it. I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and I will see you all later. Bye.